So for the past 2 years, I've been in school, and a couple weeks ago, I just wrapped up my master's program in data science at UC Berkeley. As you're thinking about either going to grad school or not, or just thinking about what program to do, I know that there's a ton of pros and cons out there, so I wanted to give my honest review of the program I just finished and share with you some of the pros, the cons, and would I do it again. So let's get into it. As a reminder, I'm Courtney, I'm 27, and I'm a product manager at Amazon Web Services. Berkeley, the university as a whole, is on a normal semester system, but the MIDS program is actually on a term system. So they have fall, spring, and summer terms. All of them are 14 weeks. I think summer might be 12 weeks, but they're all between 12 and 14 weeks. You can take the program at different speeds. So there's advanced, intermediate, and a slower speed. So advanced is if you weren't a working professional or you just graduated college and you wanted to crank out the program in a year. You could take 3 classes every term and wrap it up within that short time frame. And then the intermediate is what I did, and that is on average 2 classes a term. So that you finish in about 2 years, and then the slower route is if you were to take 1 class a term and you finish that in probably 2.5 to 3 years. So it's dependent on your schedule and how much you're working and what makes sense for your life. In the 2 years it took me to complete the program, the total cost came out to about $80,000. Lastly, MIDS is the #2 online data science master's program in the entire country, and the only one above it is USC's. So I want to give a brief background of how I even got here and when I was deciding between what master's programs to choose or whether or not to go and like get an MBA or something like that, what I actually was considering 2 years ago at the same time. So a little bit of background on me. I graduated from Miami University in Ohio, and I double majored in marketing and business analytics. That business analytics major was more tailored to data analysis like SQL and Tableau, but I did have classes that were around machine learning, and also I took a time series forecasting class that was completely in R, and both the ML class and the time series forecasting class I really liked, but it was only just the advanced courses in my program. It wasn't anything more. So after college, I went into the consulting industry. And then after the consulting industry, I went into the CPG industry and worked for Procter & Gamble. And both of those roles were analytics based. In consulting, I was a analytics and data strategy consultant. At P&G, I was a growth analytics and insights manager. How I eventually ended up getting into considering a master's program is I'd always wanted to go back to school. I really liked school, and I knew that that was going to be something that I wanted to do eventually. Once I was actually working in consulting, I think if anyone is out there has worked in consulting, you know you're in the trenches, and sometimes it can be really bad. And so I was actually staffed on a project that got pretty horrible. I was working weekends, all-nighters, you name it. So that's when I made the jump to go work at P&G. And when I got to P&G, I think I experienced a little bit of Stockholm syndrome from the consulting world because it was too slow for me. It was a company that wasn't data native. I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, I feel like I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not working and quitting working long hours to success. So that did give me the time to really sit and think about like what I wanted to do with my life. So I ended up deciding to go back to school. And so I was searching all these programs. I talked to a few people. I ended up weighing out an MBA because I was like, I like this whole analytics space. I'm excited about what could possibly happen from this. I really didn't want to switch career paths, and I wanted to stay on that analytics track, so a master's made more sense. At the same time, I was really missing that more advanced analytics. At P&G, I wasn't coding as much, I wasn't being as technical, and I started to get a little bit like of a fear in myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm not staying technical, and that started to kind of freak me out. Like I'd built up all these skills, like I didn't just want to lose it. And I'm the type of person that really needs some structure to continue to learn and make time for these things. And then lastly, when it came to an MBA, I didn't really want to take 2 years off of work to go to school because I didn't have a second form of income, and I had this lifestyle that I still wanted to live, traveling, having fun with my friends, partying. That was not something that I was willing to give up. So I would have been broke. So I decided that probably wasn't in the cards for me, and I would need to continue to work if I wanted to have fun, live my lifestyle, and then still go back to school. And the last thing is, if I was gonna do a program 100% online, I didn't wanna go to just anywhere. I wanted to go to a school where it carried a lot of weight, where I could put on my resume and people look at my resume and think, ooh, this girl is really smart. I wanna give her a job right now. So to be honest, Berkeley was the only place I applied, and I really did not expect to get in at all. And one day I was just sitting in LA at a bar with my friends, and I got the email and I was like, holy shit, I got in. Whoa. And I remember waking up the next day and being like, holy shit, I got into Berkeley, and I felt like it was a dream. And it could be because I was hungover, but still. So now for the good stuff. What was my experience in all this? I'm gonna shoot it to you straight and give you all of the cons right off the bat, because there are definitely a lot of cons when being broke and trying to go back to school. Being an online program definitely has its perks, but it definitely has its cons too. I'm an extremely outgoing social person, and I'm a very hands-on learner. I like to meet people. I like to get into the details, nitty-gritty, be in an office, working with everyone and collaborating. So at times that part was very hard about an online program. It really was what you made it. And sometimes when you're just lazy and not really feeling like talking to anyone, you can just kind of sit back and just be like, I don't really want to show up today. And that part I didn't really love at times because, you know, it's so much better to be in person with people and actually interacting, in my opinion. Also, another thing that I have to be honest about, and some of you are gonna be like, this is so stupid, and I know, it's stupid, but at times I was actually like, I don't really love this about the program. It's like when people would ask me, is it online? And I would have to answer yes. Like, I don't know what it is, but part of me is just like, I hated saying that. Like, it just sounded so much less cool, you know? And again, I know that's extremely stupid, but I'm being honest here, and sometimes I was like, Another thing is that this program is very, very expensive. I think it's the most expensive online data science master's program out there. Like I mentioned, at the end of my 2 years, it came out to about $80,000, I think a little bit more. And I did about 90% of that out on loans. So 2 plus 2, carry the 1. You do the math, I'm really in debt. Another key thing that I wish I would have known before going in that related to kind of being in debt and taking out money is that 2 classes in this program is 6 credit hours, and that is what considers you to be a full-time student. So that means if you do go down in the intermediate route or the slower route and only take 1 class during a term, which happens actually very frequently because they suggest sometimes if you are a working professional and you're taking some of the hardest class in the program, like you should take it alone. And so I did that because classes get hard, and you know, that is something that a lot of people need to do, but you are not a full-time student at that point and you do not get financial aid. So there was actually one time where I did that and I kind of did an oopsies, and I ended up having to take out an additional loan outside of financial aid from the government, and that is at higher interest rates, and I just wanted to kick myself for not knowing that and planning ahead. There's a lot of ins and outs of this, so I will definitely do another video on it if any of you are curious about how to pay for a program like this entirely on financial aid. The last con I want to talk about is classes can be really, really difficult. I know a lot of programs are like this, but I think when you are also working and just the caliber at which the classes come at, it can be a lot to take on. One of the entry-level classes I really struggled with, and it was really, really hard. It was Data Science 203, and it had to do a lot with probability theory statistics. So, you know, we were doing proofs, really intricate math. I had to relearn calculus, the whole shebang, and it was really freaking hard for me. I was waking up at 5 a.m., you know, I was working late. It was a lot. So the classes can be extremely hard, but it's very dependent on what skill sets you come into the program with and your background and all those different things. So it varies for people, but yeah, it can be very difficult and time consuming. Now I want to get into the positives of the program as a whole. Number 1, the program being online allows for a really easy transition into the program and is extremely flexible. This also allows for the program to be international. So there was a ton of people that were in the program from all over the world, all different ages, at all stages and walks of life, and just had so much diversity. And that was one thing that I really, really loved about it being an online program. And let me just say that I have a completely newfound respect for parents who do programs like this, because holy shit, how are you doing that? And also making sure that your kids stay alive. I really don't know. I could barely do it just keeping myself alive. Second, Berkeley as a whole is phenomenal, especially if you're trying to work in the tech space and do the whole AI, ML, data science space. It's awesome. The faculty are top notch. So many of them have worked for insanely cool companies at insanely cool roles. They're all very hands-on. The classes are pretty small. It's actually 10 to 15 people per class. So the interaction with them is very personal. So I really, really like that about the program. And it allows you to really get involved at the university. Coming out of it, I'm actually a TA right now. And that was something just through meeting a professor, really liking him, going to office hours, and then getting involved. And since the faculty and professors are so amazing, that then equates to amazing curriculum. The information that you are learning is super up to date, super easy to understand, and really immersive and hands-on. It doesn't really feel like an online class when you're doing the work because it's very top-notch. So I have nothing bad to say about the curriculum and the class structure because it's very good. And then next, just the name brand. Honestly, I was trying to break into big tech even before I applied and got into Berkeley. So I had thrown my resume into all big tech companies, got nothing. As soon as I got into the program, I immediately put that Berkeley name on my resume. I applied and I was getting interviews at all of the jobs that I had always wanted, which was actually so shocking to me because I think people wonder how much weight does it actually carry? In my case, I saw it carry a ton of weight. I got interviews at product management jobs, like data analyst jobs from Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, and LinkedIn, all within like a 3-month time span. And as someone with no connections in the tech industry and like no referrals and different things like that, I feel like that's really good. Like I am just a random person applying with no extra help, and my resume was actually getting picked up by so many big tech companies. Another thing on top of the curriculum and coursework is the final capstone project is incredible. It was one of my favorite classes of the entire program, and it's essentially you work with a team and get like an MVP of a startup going within 14 weeks. And it was just so fun. It's a time to showcase all the work that you've done in the program, and then you present it in your final class, and then your classmates actually vote on it. And then you can go to showcase, which is you present it again to 3 judges from big tech companies who are external, and then they vote on a winner. And it's really just a fun way of wrapping it all up and tying the ribbon on the program. I thought it was just a phenomenal class. Our teacher was someone who actually does investing in startups for a living. So it was really cool to work with her. And I'm sure the rest of the faculty and all the other classes are amazing too. So that is one thing. I don't know how other master's programs have kind of their final presentation and capstone, so to speak, but I know the one at Berkeley was really, really great, and I have nothing but positive things to say about that. And then my last thing that I'll touch on is this program actually has something called Mids for Life. So once you graduate, you actually get access to all of the coursework that comes with the Mids program. So you can go back and you can look at all the async material or work that you have done throughout the program, and then you can actually look at the async material and syllabuses and everything for classes that you did not take. So it was actually something that people would consider when trying to decide between a class and the program. Like, should I take this class or this class? And people would be like, oh, well, this has a really good async material with it, so I could do that in Mids for Life, and I should maybe take the other class that requires a bit more instructor hands-on attention and things like that. So I think that's something really unique about this program. You pay a shit ton of money and you get to keep some of that stuff throughout the way. And if you want to go back and self-learn, then you're coming back and you're getting still top-notch curriculum and things from Berkeley. And that I think is something really nice that the school does. They're currently revamping it, so I actually don't have access to it right now, and it's kind of like this big, when are they gonna give us access kind of thing? But I have a feeling that, it'll all work out, and I love that that's a resource that I'll have forever. So I wanna wrap this all up, and I wanna give you the honest answer. Given the opportunity to do this again, would I do it? And the answer that I would say is yes. I think for me, I hinted at a lot of what the program has done for me, and I think alone, just having the name on my resume did so much for me. I've spoken in previous videos about being a first-gen college student and not having a lot of connections in tech and not having referrals when a lot of people do. And I know for people who don't, it can be extremely frustrating. And I remember always hating the fact that I didn't have a seat at the table or instant respect or qualifications, things like that. And so for me, this did that for me. It gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me a seat at the table. It gave me instant respect that I'm capable of doing the work and being a data scientist and all of these things. And that to me is pretty invaluable. You know, again, that's a personal take and stance. A lot of people may, you know, already feel like they are completely comfortable coming into the world and doing it and have self-taught, and that's amazing. For me personally, I like that recognition and that chip on my shoulder that, you know, I can be here, I deserve to be here. Look, I went to Berkeley and I got a master's. Maybe some people think that's shallow, but I think you either feel that way or you're lying. And honestly, I'm not even ashamed to say that. I think people should be more proud of like what they do and the accomplishments that they get. So I ain't ashamed. So for the sheer fact that this whole time at Berkeley, 1, got me into the tech industry, 2, got me connections in the tech industry and at Berkeley, and then 3, has given me something that will last a lifetime. Given the opportunity to do this again, would I do it? Yes. The program being expensive is probably my biggest, what I dislike the most, but I will say like getting a job in the tech industry has also paid me a lot more than what I had before, and a lot of big tech companies give out stock. So for me, that was something that I considered beforehand. And I think as I continue through Amazon, I'm almost 2 years in, my stock will continue to vest. And the amount of stock that will continue to vest for me will be what I use to then hopefully pay off my student loans. It's not all of it. So sadly, you know, that's just something that you sign up for sometimes when you're doing this and you don't have a lot of money saved or you're doing it all on loans. But for me, I think I'm okay with it. And it's nothing too overbearing or crazy where I feel really stressed out, like I'm never gonna be able to pay it off. I think it's given me that job security and comfort right now, even though the tech industry is, I know, a little crazy. But I think with the connections at Berkeley too, like I also have that additional job security in a sense where it's like if I did lose my job tomorrow, I would have a lot of connections to reach out to and hopefully help me with that. Again, easier said than done. I know a lot of people out there are really struggling, so I don't mean to be insensitive to that whatsoever, but just speaking from my personal experience and how my brain has kind of worked throughout all of this. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope this helps any of you out there if you're considering whether to go to grad school or what program, or you know, the fear of having to pay for it all, anything at all. I hope this helps. And if there's anything in this video that you guys find interesting or want to hear more about or want me to dive deeper on, please just comment and I'm happy to do a video on anything because I've learned through a lot of mistakes. This is something that I wish somebody had posted before I joined the program. That way I would have all the information necessary to really make calculated decisions as I was going through. So yeah. Thank you guys and see you next time.